Hey, what's going on? It's your girl Rachel Luna, and I think we might start a new series called Coffee Talks. And these will be chats that we have while I'm doing my coffee enemas. If you don't know why I do coffee enemas, then you probably want to listen to my other podcast, The Scandalous Christian, where I talk about healing breast cancer naturally and the things that I do naturopathically to continue to stay cancer-free, and coffee enemas is one of them. Anyway, I find that while I'm doing these coffee enemas, it gives you a lot of time to think or to tune out. So it just kind of depends on the day. Most of the days, I watch a lot of YouTube videos or training courses. But today I was reading a book, and this book is called How to Be Rich by Andy Stanley. The subtitle is It's Not What You Have, It's What You Do With What You Have. And this book was gifted to me by my dear friend Patrice Washington. She's been I'm adjusting my book. She's been a guest on the show several times, and I've been a guest on her podcast, Redefining Wealth, a few times as well. So Patrice is also one of my prayer partners. I absolutely love her. She herself is a best-selling author, multiple books around the topic of money and wealth, and she is a wealth of information. So I definitely encourage you to check her out. I will link in the description so that you can find her, follow her. She's fantastic. Anyway, she sent this book to myself and another woman, Brooke Thomas, who is Live Out Loud Brooke on Instagram. The three of us meet every Wednesday for prayer, and we often will send each other books or Bibles or journals. And so Patrice sent us both this book. Anyway, I digress. I felt like I needed to give you this backstory. But as I was reading this book, the beginning talks about a woman who, the first woman to ever be diagnosed with anorexia nervosa. And if you don't know my story, I struggled with both anorexia and bulimia as a young teen. And I never really got therapy for my eating disorders. I got therapy for everything else. I got therapy for the death of my parents. I got therapy for other childhood traumas. And I would say I got mild therapy around my eating disorders. But the eating disorder itself was never the focus. It was more what was behind the eating disorder. So we never really got into what I saw when I looked in the mirror. We never really talked about my body image. We talked about the stress and trauma that the doctors thought was causing my eating disorders. And so, well, not my disorders, the disordered eating. I'm very, very cautious of not using personal pronouns for things that I don't want to carry. So I don't say my eating disorder because I don't have an eating disorder, nor do I want one. I say the eating disorders or the disordered eating. Anyway, that's just a really good practice. If you have been struggling with anything, if you have a chronic illness, if you've been diagnosed with depression or anxiety or anything else, be very careful not to personify it and not to use the modifier my, because you don't want to give it ownership. You don't want it to take root. You want to cast it out. So anyway, in this book, the author writes, a common myth about anorexics holds that when they look in the mirror, they see a fat person. That's not really accurate. What they see is someone who would be better off just a little bit thinner. And I thought that was so interesting because it wasn't until getting diagnosed with cancer and losing, how much weight did I lose? I believe I lost 22 pounds total after getting diagnosed with cancer and doing all the treatments. And I remember looking in the mirror after losing that weight. And by the way, prior to that, I had always felt like, man, if I could just lose 10 pounds. The eating disorders were healed. I love to eat, still love to eat. I was eating great then. I still eat great now. I've lost the weight because of the treatments. But I love eating, so I really do consider myself healed from these eating disorders. But what was interesting was that I lost the weight, and I remember looking at myself in the mirror one day and thinking to myself, I still have this pooch. This still doesn't look right. I've lost all this weight, and I thought I was going to look different. Why don't I look different? And that's when it hit me. I had, at that moment, body dysmorphia. And it was so freaking shocking to me to realize, like, oh my goodness, I have this disorder. Like, this is, maybe I don't have it, but this is something that is coming up for me right now. I look in the mirror, I don't see what other people see. When I look in the mirror, I still see a girl who could use a few, who could look thinner, who could lose, it wasn't so much as lose weight, but it was change shape. And if you've ever struggled with body image, then I think you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, I think that this will be relevant to you as well. So just stick with me here. So I look in the mirror and I realize, like, wait a second, I don't see that I've lost 22 pounds. It looks like business as usual over here. What's going on? And then my daughter looked at me, and I was staring at the mirror, and she goes, Mama, you are so skinny. Don't lose any more weight. And I said, really, you think? She said, yeah, look at in the jeans. And like the pants that I was wearing. So I took a picture, and it was interesting because in the picture, I could see what she and my husband had been telling me was that I was losing too much weight. But when I looked in the mirror, that is not what I saw. So I just want to ask you right now, how often are you looking in the mirror? How often are you looking at your business? How often are you looking at your social media? And people are telling you that you look great, that your business is amazing, that the content you provide is so inspiring. But when you look at it, you don't see what they see. Do you have body dysmorphia? Do you have business dysmorphia? Do you have content dysmorphia? So once I became aware of the situation, the issue, I set on a path immediately to heal myself from this, because I know that a diagnosis is not permanent. It doesn't matter what the doctors say. Their diagnosis is not permanent. We have the power to heal. We have the power to transform every single cell in our body, not just with our food, but with our thoughts, with our behaviors, with our approach. So for me, this was so important. Especially as a mother of 2 girls, there's no way that I could continue to show up that way for myself and expect them to show up differently as they navigate puberty and changing bodies. So right away, I began looking at pictures of myself and taking pictures, which is something that I always avoided doing, which is interesting because I have to take a lot of pictures for work. But on the day-to-day, I've always avoided taking lots of pictures, but I started taking pictures so that I could see myself the way that I really was. Then I started touching the areas of my body that I would judge harshly. And for years, I judged my abdomen area. The fupa, you guys know what a fupa is? Fat above the P area. Anyway, that little, where your uterus is. Mine traditionally has always been enlarged. It's always stuck out, kind of like a little almond, or I don't know. Anyway, it's always stuck out. And that always bothered me because no matter how much weight I lost, that fupa was always fully present. And so I decided that I was going to love it. and put my hands, and to this day, I put my hands on my belly and I say, I love you. You've done such a good job. You've taken care of me. You're healthy. And I just speak so lovingly to it. I also lost a lot of weight in my butt, and that was really bothering me. I was like, wait a second, I lost 20 pounds in my butt? Because everything else looks the same. So I started talking to my butt lovingly and saying, like, you're round, you're high and tight, you look so great, you're the cutest little butt in the world. I just started talking beautifully over my body. And it does feel weird at first, and you kind of feel like it's not making a difference. But little by little, I started to change what I saw in the mirror. And so now when I walk by the mirror, I see exactly what I look like. I'm actually working to gain weight now, which is a place I never thought I would be in after being someone who had disordered eating for so many years. I never thought I would look and say like, I might want to gain some weight here. I'm really thin. And by the way, if you struggle with weight or you're trying to lose weight, please know that I'm not trying to be insensitive to where you are. We're all on our own journey. And I know you might be rolling your eyes like, I wish I were in that situation, because believe me, I did a lot of eye rolling myself, judging all the skinny biatches out there. And now, I'm one of those skinny biatches out there. And I just want to let you know, having been on both sides of the planet, each side has its own struggle. And we don't see it. We don't see it, especially when we're on the side of trying to lose the weight. I did not see it. I never saw skinny girls having issues. I always thought that they had it so easy. And it's not that they have it easier or harder. It's just different. So I want you to, I guess I'm sharing this because I want us to become aware of the stories that we're telling ourselves. I want us to become aware of the lens through which we are seeing things. Take a look at your body today. Do you see it the way the world sees it? And if not, love on it. Take a look at your business. Do you see it the way your raving fans see it? Take a look at the content you're creating. When you create content, do you look at it and say, wow, that's really good, that's inspiring, that's motivating? Or are you judging it harshly, saying it's not pretty, it's not designed enough, the fonts are wrong, or whatever story you might be telling yourself? Because I'll venture to say that just like my own distorted perception of my body and the way that people who are anorexic don't necessarily see a fat body, they see a body that should be a little thinner, we might be looking at it as you're not judging it super harshly, but you're still judging it unfairly. And it's time for us to stop that. It's time to let go of the dysmorphia. And it's time to love ourselves, our work, our contributions for what they are: powerful, strong, able, of high service, worthy of compensation, and adding massive contribution. Anyway, that's about it. My 12 minutes of laying on my side are almost up, so I will let you go. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you are new, please subscribe. If you are a veteran, a #loyal lunatic, and you have not left me a review, today would be the day. Today's the day. Go leave me a review on iTunes, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.